Welcome to Bond and Bondage Helpline, where we untangle human emotions. No safe word required. I'm Stella Black. Today's video is of a different nature, although I will approach the subject from the same angles as I've before. I'm here to examine the soft girl trend, a movement that has gained immense popularity among young women on social media. Some celebrities and former girl boss girlies seem to have embraced this trend, and herein lies the rub. In case some of you missed this trend taking off like a rocket, here are some basics. Soft girl life, or soft life, is a trend that emphasizes a slower, gentler, and more self-care-oriented lifestyle, rejecting the hustle culture and girl boss mentality, prioritizing leisure, relaxation, and personal well-being. I won't be talking about how the most prominent adherents to this lifestyle are still hustling, only now their job is making content. And not just content, but essentially an ongoing marketing campaign to sell this lifestyle to others so they can continue to have their soft life. I would like to ask the following question of my viewers. When did we start assigning gender to universally human and gender-free qualities such as leadership, initiative, hard work, and ambition? Those are qualities that are exhibited equally by men and women, so the opposite is true for both men and women as well. So if we look at human qualities as genderless, we start to see the bigger picture. We live in a capitalist system, and the system rewards the grind, the hustle, and the work hours that are incompatible with having a personal life where one can pursue hobbies, meaningful personal relationships, or good health. So it's not surprising that people turn away from that lifestyle towards something that takes them out of the grind and into something more akin to the lifestyle of our ancestors, namely, some work and more rest and enjoyment of life. We've seen people who work so hard that they make themselves sick or lonely, or both, and it's no wonder that seeing people do that to themselves, or worse, being one of those people, is enough to make you wonder where you took the wrong turn to end up in Hustleville. My question is this: why is the new soft girl trend still less about true self-care and more about consumption and becoming a product for consumption, like choosing the role of a stay-at-home girlfriend? Noticeably, the trend of stay-at-home boyfriends isn't quite as strong, which sheds light on the true nature of the soft girl aesthetic. From a feminist and psychological standpoint, the rising popularity of the soft girl aesthetic and lifestyle trend poses significant cultural and developmental concerns. While on the surface it may seem like a harmless or even empowering return to femininity, a deeper look reveals how it reintroduces restrictive gender norms cloaked in pastel tones and dreamy Instagram filters. At its core, feminism has always sought to dismantle the notion that a woman's value lies in her ability to conform to idealized roles, whether that be the obedient housewife of the 1950s or today's ethereal, hyper-feminine, soft girl. Despite appearing progressive or self-chosen, the aesthetic often glorifies traits such as emotional fragility, dependency, and detachment from ambition, all of which have historically been used to justify limiting women's participation in public and professional life. From a clinical psychology lens, one especially troubling element of the soft girl movement is the widespread promotion of manifesting your ideal life as a passive, almost magical process. Instead of encouraging young women to pursue their goals through effort, education, or risk-taking, the narrative suggests that visualizing a dream life, complete with a devoted partner, financial ease, and emotional comfort, will eventually make it materialize. This belief system often overlaps with what psychologists refer to as magical thinking, the illusion that one's desires or thoughts alone can influence external outcomes. While visualization and optimism can be powerful tools when paired with goal-oriented behavior, they become maladaptive when they substitute for action. In therapy, clinicians often see the fallout from this. Clients who feel defeated, anxious, or inadequate when their manifested realities fail to appear, not realizing that effort, not just intention, is critical to change. Let's get back to the aforementioned stay-at-home girlfriend trend on platforms like TikTok. Young women document their carefully curated daily routines, making smoothies, applying skincare, lighting candles, while financially dependent on a boyfriend. While these videos are often framed as peaceful and self-loving, they mask an underlying vulnerability. Many of these women lack financial independence or legal protection, like marriage or cohabitation agreements, if the relationship dissolves. A real-life case seen in counseling involved a 26-year-old woman who quit her job to become a stay-at-home partner after her boyfriend encouraged her to focus on herself. She began creating content about manifesting abundance and living softly. When the relationship ended unexpectedly, she found herself with no savings, no current work experience, and a ruptured sense of identity. What was initially presented as a lifestyle of ease became a psychological and economic crisis. The soft girl aesthetic also often idealizes infantilization, portraying women as delicate, submissive, or perpetually youthful. This is not simply a style choice. Social scientists have long documented how societies that idealize youth and fragility in women tend to reinforce paternalistic structures. These norms implicitly suggest that women should be cared for, rather than be caregivers or leaders. This echoes broader systemic issues. In the workplace, women are often interrupted more, promoted less, and taken less seriously when they exhibit stereotypically feminine traits. By leaning into an identity that romanticizes emotional vulnerability and withdrawal from ambition, the soft girl trend risks reinforcing the very stereotypes feminism has fought for decades to dismantle. What makes the trend particularly insidious is its disguise as empowerment. To an uncritical eye, choosing to be soft, gentle, and aesthetically pleasing might seem like a reclaiming of femininity. But empowerment without autonomy is a hollow promise. A choice shaped by societal reward systems, likes, views, male approval, may feel autonomous but is often performative. Empowerment in its truest form requires access to resources, the ability to make decisions free from coercion, even cultural coercion, and resilience rooted in action, not aesthetics. When a lifestyle encourages women to manifest their dreams while actively discouraging engagement with the real-world steps required to achieve them, education, financial literacy, career development, it ultimately becomes another barrier to equality. Another deeply concerning element of the soft girl trend is its inextricable link to consumerism, particularly luxury consumerism. While the aesthetic often promotes self-love, peace, and emotional softness, achieving the look almost always involves purchasing an ever-rotating roster of expensive beauty products, pastel clothing, designer loungewear, skincare regimens, perfumes, and minimalist home decor. Influencers who market the soft girl lifestyle often feature curated environments with high-end brands, Dyson hair tools, diptyque candles, Glossier serums, and silk bedding, implicitly suggesting that softness isn't just a mindset, but a product you can buy. This turns identity into a financial burden, especially for younger audiences who are still building economic stability. Financially, this dynamic is particularly insidious because it creates a sense of inadequacy in those who can't afford to keep up. A 19-year-old university student may begin to believe that true femininity or emotional well-being depends on buying a $60 lip oil or redecorating her bedroom in soft pinks with white plush textures. In therapy, we sometimes see clients who express anxiety, shame, or low self-worth because they can't keep up with the self-care rituals and visuals paraded online. The danger lies in framing luxury as a necessity, when softness becomes synonymous with consumption, then financial strain or frugality can feel like a personal failure rather than a structural reality. It can also lead to compulsive spending patterns that mimic addiction cycles, chasing the next purchase for the fleeting dopamine rush of alignment with the ideal. Emotionally, this commodification erodes the internal sense of self. Young women may begin to define their worth not by their values, creativity, or resilience, but by their ability to embody a brand-aligned femininity. The curated softness becomes performative, a performance of being gentle, serene, and desirable, as long as the lighting is right and the objects surrounding you reflect a particular aspirational class. In effect, these women are not just buying products, they are buying permission to feel beautiful, valuable, or seen. This can lead to identity confusion, where individuals lose touch with who they are outside of what they consume. Clinical psychologists often see this manifest as depressive symptoms, imposter syndrome, and chronic dissatisfaction. Ecologically, the soft girl trend reinforces fast-paced consumption cycles that are devastating for the planet. The frequent turnover of products, seasonal aesthetics, and pressure to constantly update one's appearance for social media content contribute to wasteful habits. Fast fashion brands have already capitalized on this by mass-producing pastel, hyper-feminine collections at low cost, driving overconsumption while exploiting labor in the global south. Cosmetics and lifestyle industries do the same, flooding the market with single-use packaging and products marketed as essential to soft living. The contradiction here is stark. The trend celebrates peace, calm, and healing, yet fuels the same extractive systems that cause environmental and human harm. Finally, when an aesthetic becomes this heavily commodified, it ceases to be a form of self-expression and instead becomes a form of compliance. The soft girl, as currently presented on social media, is no longer just a mood. She's a marketing category, a brand archetype, a monetizable persona. The people most influenced by this trend, often young women at formative stages in their development, are the ones being trained to self-regulate through consumption. The result is a cycle where personal peace is always just one more purchase away, never something to be cultivated internally. The real cost isn't just financial, it's the quiet erosion of agency, authenticity, and environmental responsibility. From a brain development perspective, the soft girl trend may seem harmless on the surface, but it can actually shape how the brain grows and what kind of adult a person becomes. During your teenage years and early 20s, the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for planning, decision-making, self-control, and long-term thinking, is still developing. This time in your life is like laying down the mental blueprint for your future. If most of your daily focus is on appearances, luxury products, or being financially dependent on someone else, the brain starts to build habits around those things, habits that may not serve you when real-world challenges arrive. One of the brain systems most involved here is the dopaminergic system. This handles dopamine, the feel-good chemical that gets released when something pleasurable happens. Social media likes, online shopping, or compliments on your appearance can give you a quick dopamine hit. But if your brain gets too used to easy, short-term rewards, it becomes harder to stay motivated for goals that take time and effort, like learning a new skill, starting a business, or finishing a degree. In other words, chasing that soft, beautiful aesthetic might feel rewarding now, but it can make harder, more meaningful goals feel boring or overwhelming later on. Another important concept is the default mode network, DMN, a group of brain areas that becomes active when you're thinking about yourself, your image, or your past and future. It's basically your daydreaming and self-reflection system. But when you spend too much time focused on your looks, comparing yourself to others, or obsessing over how you're perceived online, this system can go into overdrive. That leads to rumination, when your thoughts keep spinning in circles, which is linked to things like anxiety, depression, and low self-worth. So, constantly curating your image to match the soft girl ideal may seem calming, but it can increase emotional stress and insecurity over time. The lifestyle promoted by the soft girl trend also tends to neglect real-world skills, like how to manage money, solve problems, set boundaries, or handle failure. These skills aren't just nice to have. They literally shape how your brain works. The brain builds neural pathways, think of them like mental roads, based on what you practice and experience. So if you're not doing things like working through hard challenges, making independent choices, or learning how to handle pressure, your brain doesn't build the tools to do those things well later in life. Then, if you eventually decide to enter a career or become financially independent, the lack of practice can make it much harder to adjust and more overwhelming mentally. And there's a big emotional cost, too. Many soft girl influencers show a lifestyle where a woman depends on her boyfriend for money and comfort. That might feel secure at first, but what happens if the relationship ends? You might lose not just your home or financial support, but also your sense of identity. This can trigger your stress response system, especially the amygdala, which processes fear and threats, and the HPA axis, your body's way of managing stress. When these systems get activated intensely, like when you suddenly lose your support structure, you can feel panicked, depressed, or even traumatized. It's like the emotional floor drops out from under you, and if you haven't built a strong inner foundation, it's really hard to recover. In short, the soft girl trend might look peaceful, pretty, and desirable, but behind the scenes, it teaches the brain to prioritize short-term beauty and comfort over long-term growth, independence, and resilience. That's not just a social issue, it's a neurodevelopmental one. Real softness, the kind that's healthy and sustainable, doesn't mean avoiding hard things. It means facing life with kindness, self-trust, and strength that comes from within, not from how you look or what you can buy. The soft girl movement is not inherently dangerous in its aesthetic or emotional appeal. Gentleness, self-care, and emotional expression are vital aspects of psychological well-being. However, when wrapped in passive ideologies and divorced from structural awareness, such trends can lead to psychological disempowerment, economic vulnerability, and a cultural backslide in feminist progress. We must teach young women, and indeed all individuals, that creating an ideal life involves more than manifesting. It requires courage, critical thought, effort, and sometimes resistance against comforting but limiting norms. True softness does not mean surrender. It means strength expressed through compassion, not complacency. That's enough for now. Your scars might be on the inside, but scar patches come in all shapes and sizes. Find your patch and protect them with your life. See you next week.